And very good morning to everybody. Tracy, Douglas, Karen, how are you this morning? What is going on this morning? My goodness, what a night. What a day. What a morning. What did everybody think about that Lori Lightfoot report? Oh, yeah, first I want to show you something. It's just a little piece of the cameras. Yeah, we're going to be doing something different here on this channel. We're not going to put up with any trolls. If you want to come in and do your little thing, you're going to be banned. And I mean banned, not timed out, banned from this channel. No, I don't. But my brothers do. So serve and save. Yes, they are, aren't they, Douglas? Oh, so are you feeling bad? Brandon, welcome. You're not feeling well? So serve safe. I hope you feel better. Could be some new rules to this chat. And you're going to start hitting that like button. 20 people. Oh, I'm really sorry. I hope you feel better. So serve and save is sick, Mom. She didn't hear me. She's lighting a cigarette. Changes will be afoot. Hit the like button and we can get started. For some breaking news. And if you don't want to, then we won't do anything but sit here and talk. It's up to you. All you in the bushes. Hit the like. Hit the dislike. I don't care. We've got some news for you today. News for you today. Okay, we're up to 9. That's pretty good. Pretty good. I'm the Richard Pryor of the... Oh, let me put this up. I keep forgetting that. I'm the Richard Pryor of the chat, so I'm going to have to adjust. Like button activated. Hi to Mama Conscious. Tracy says hi. Tracy says hi.
Hi back, kid.
Yeah, a lot of people were disappointed with that report, weren't they? I was a little bit disappointed. But my mother kept talking throughout it, so I really didn't understand it. And she's giving me the mom eye. But I did listen to it this morning.
Blame it on me. I can't handle it.
Blame it on me. It was disappointing in a sense, but not. She did give a lot of information as far as procedures, right? Yeah, I think they did want criminal charges. I think they wanted Tiffany to be hauled off and thrown in jail, but that wasn't Lightfoot's point, was it? Aw, Tracy. Tracy misses her mom so much. That's why I love having your mom as part of the conversation. Isn't that nice?
Very nice.
She said very nice. Potato. How's Mrs. Potato? Yeah. But what did she cover? She covered procedures. Okay, and I'll play a little of it at a time. Forensic investigation, basically what we have doing all this time. Yeah. Critical did a fantastic job, and so did Reality Check TV Chicago. So shout out to those channels. Oh, you got a day off. All right, let's. I did want to show you the backwoods, but let's just kind of go through it a little bit, and I do have some surprises in store for you. I was expecting more color in the PowerPoint presentation. Yeah, I was hoping it wasn't going to be a PowerPoint, but it was. And it was on that Jumbotron, right? So what I did is I filtered this through so that you can, hear what's being said. So, and after this live, it's going to be members only. How do you like that? You want the tea? Then go ahead. I got glazed over and had to leave to let the cat out. She proved that the trustees were intentionally kept from their elected duties for oversight. That's true. That's true. But we knew that, right? From their statements and things, right? Wyoming, my favorite gal. Get it from me. Yeah. So we're gonna play a little bit of it.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming out on a cold night, and hello to those folks who are watching on the live stream. My name is Lori Lightfoot, and with
Thank you very much, Tracy. I appreciate that. I was really hoping for warrantless bonds, payments to Chicago, and I have a surprise for you as well.
my colleague Amanda Kite, we're from the Charles River Associates, and we are here to provide to the members of the Board of Trustees and the public our final report regarding our investigation of the allegations of financial mismanagement and other matters concerning the Village of Dalton. A couple of quick housekeeping matters. You should, it should be circulating index cards if you want to ask us questions. We're going to go through the entire presentations first. I'm not promising you that we're going to be able to answer everyone's question, but we'll try to get you as many as possible. We will set up, for those that we aren't able to answer, we will set up a microsite and have answers to the different questions there. Also, that's circulating is a document that if you want a hard copy or an electronic copy of this PowerPoint presentation, give us your name and your email address, and we'll make sure that you get it within the next 24 hours. All right. Well, make sure you fill out the paperwork. There's signing the sheets going around that you should be able to put your name. We do not have subpoena power as an independent investigative team, which would have allowed us to obtain materials and cooperation from individuals. The village's personnel policies do not require cooperation with internal investigation. That could prove to be a challenge in this circumstance. And the lack of cooperation by some individuals led to delays, limited our abilities and scope of work, and ultimately limited the information that we were able to address in the course of this investigation. Despite these obstacles, we made progress in providing information to the trustees and to the public on the true financial condition of the Village of Dalton, along with some other issues. And as a result of that, we're able to make some concrete recommendations, many of which the trustees have already adopted, on how to right the ship, to make sure that there were financial guardrails in the operation of city government.
And I think that was the whole point of the presentation. And, you know, you have to ask residents, was this worth $30,000? We as outsiders, we can't say that, right? Because this is the residents' money. So they have to make that decision. Was it worth $30,000? So she goes through procedures, and hit that like button, or I'll stop talking and just pause it here so you can look at Lori Lightfoot and her consultant. So was it worth $30,000 for this final report? She made suggestions to the trustees on, you know, how to right the ship. Did she confirm that Janice Johnson is in charge of the checks? I think there was mention made of that. And she also mentioned Carlisle, right? They chose to not listen and shut people down. I didn't like the cards. I thought people were going to be able to get up and speak, but that's the way they handled it. Yeah, we hope you feel better too. So serve and save. We don't like people sick. And say a prayer for Cynthia too, as well. Okay, let's go.
And to provide some other supports that would all be in favor of transparency and good governance. For those
I'm sorry, but the first thing that you can do with transparency is put the damn stuff on the website that you have. That I didn't like. Transparency. They're not providing it. It's a criticism, I know, but that's just my feeling.
For those of you who don't know, we thought it would be important to give just a little bit of background about the Village of Dalton. The village was incorporated in 1892, and according to the most recent census data, the population is approximately 21,426. The median household income is 58,706, and the village is approximately 91% African American. The village has a trustee form of government, which matters under the organization of the Illinois Municipal Code, and we'll talk about that briefly in a moment. The key city employees for the village, aside from the trustees, are the mayor, the village administrator, the director of administration, the director of finance, and the staff accountant. Now, I'm not going to read everything on this slide. This is excerpts from the Illinois Municipal Code, but it suffices to say that the code really is a set of specific mandates on how a trustee form of government and other forms of government are supposed to conduct themselves. It provides things like there should be an annual appropriation, and ideally that is done in the first quarter of the village's fiscal year. No official can incur debt over and above what the budget is unless there is a 2/3 majority vote by the board trustees. There can't be entering into contracts without a corresponding appropriation. The municipality must have an audit of its financial records annually. As you know, this became an issue, and we'll talk more about that as well. And that audit and other financial information must be filed annually with the comptroller's office, or, as has happened now to Dalton, the comptroller has the ability to force an audit of the financial records. Now, on that point, if you go to the comptroller's office and you look under on their website under the municipal division, there are literally hundreds of municipalities across the state of Illinois who who have not filed the necessary financial documents, whether.
And I think that's important right there. All of these other municipalities haven't filed documents for audits either, right? Why is Dalton targeted? June, good morning. Lord Lightfoot could not show everything that she wanted to, as Tiffany and her side blocked so much. Yeah. Of course, so much was blocked and information requested was ignored because Tiffany has so much to hide. I agree. And why not give up the information if you don't have anything to hide, right? And I think this is where it gets kind of tricky because there is the FBI investigation going on. And I when everybody was leaving the meeting, they weren't very happy. But you have to be careful, right? In criminal investigations, you can't give out too much. So I agree, June. It gave Big Tiff a reason not to cooperate. Well, does she need a reason? I'm sorry. She didn't say anything I didn't already know. All of this has been reported on and wasted money. Well, and I can see your point, Dwayne. But a lot of people in the room don't know how government procedures go, right? But I do agree that they were looking for the big bang and they didn't get it. Playing fast and loose. Alonzo, welcome. For the information provided, it definitely wasn't worth it. Lightfoot doesn't have any real power to get all information needed. It's a start, though, but not enough. Somebody's got to know something. Oh, there's a lot of people that know a lot. There's a lot of people. You okay, Mommy? I'm going to let this play and hold on.
The financial report, whether it's the audit, and some of these delinquencies go back years. But soon after we had our report in early August of last year, the comptroller's office suddenly paid attention to the village of Dalton and took notice, while other municipalities across the state have been delinquent in their responsibilities for years. One might ask, why is that so? Next slide. One of the challenges, and we recommend, this is one of our recommendations, is the village doesn't have a codified municipal code. And what this means is the resolutions, the ordinances that are the backbone of governance for the village are not assembled in one location, filed with the state, so that all of you can look up what's the code say on this, that, or the other thing. This became something that we learned early on, which was a little bit of a surprise, but became.
Now I have to disagree with this. Ordinances. We can't get any ordinances. But they're supposed to be on the website. Jason House and Allison Key promised ordinances, and they're just not there. They're not there this morning either.
Another challenge to overcome and making sure that we had a true picture of what the rules and laws were that had been passed that govern the village.
Well, 45 people watching and only 18 likes. Get 20 likes. Or I'm not saying nothing else. And Potato, let me know when it's up to 20. Oh, thank you, June. Okay. Nature sale with Tiffany Dow with, oh, I can't do that.
Village of Dalton. As a result, these are the absence of archived ordinances and resolutions not being readily public led to gaps in our understanding about the laws, making governance unnecessarily difficult. Next. One thing, given what you've heard and seen over the course of the last couple of years, the village actually does have a purchasing policy and manual. And it's very straightforward, as you might expect. The challenge has been it hasn't been followed, and we'll get into details about that. But let me give you a little specifics. The policy essentially provides directions for the acquisition of all goods and services.
How's that, Tracy? Moose. Okay.
It reads, the quote, the policies and procedures conveyed within will allow the village to obtain required supplies and services efficiently and economically. The policy also provides, in general, all supplies, materials, equipment, contractual and professional services required for operational efficiency will have been included in the annual budget. Next slide. There is in this purchasing policy set controls on who can authorize what at what dollar levels. As you can see from this slide, and department heads can authorize spending up to $1,000. Between $1,001 and $5,000,
Donna B, welcome, thank you.
the village administrator can approve. And over $5,000, any expenses for goods or services over that amount must be brought to the village board for approval as set forth in the purchasing policy. The finance department is supposed to have a position called the staff accountant. That person is responsible for centralizing and overseeing the purchase of goods and services for the village, and to determine whether or not an item proposed to be spent, that there are adequate funds and proper purchasing procedures have been followed before any monies of the village are incurred. That person is supposed to be reviewing and initiating all purchase orders, payment requests after they're submitted to the finance department for payment. They're supposed to be centralized purchasing. That makes sense because in best practices, you want to make sure that there's not what we call rogue spending going on, and that the village is getting the benefit of its bargain by maximizing its buying power.
And we've been showing those purchase prices, right? A lot of the purchases are for leases, but then you have food of every restaurant that you can possibly imagine from. And were those food prices of some of them in Las Vegas? She said she was in contact with the ones that are investigating this. She probably had to get permission as to what was included in this report. And that's a good point. You got to be tricky. Now, Lori Lightfoot is smart. She's a renowned prosecutor. Very smart. She knows what she's doing. Yeah, what was left out? And why would you leave out the bonds and the money owed to Chicago? That's not under investigation. Why would you leave that out? That I didn't understand, and I was quite irritated about it. Actually, yeah, she could talk around it legally, and I think in some cases she did, right? You know. FBI includes everyone, not just Tiffany. Absolutely right, Tracy. You're going to hear her mention what Freeman and Carmen, and there was Janice. Was it Janice? Janice? Ice pack? Is that what you mean, Michael? I think.
The purchasing policy specifically says that those items are supposed to be uniformly purchased by the purchasing agent. And the purchasing policy also requires the use of purchase orders. Those are essentially requisitions for goods and services, and it's detailed there. Similarly, the purchasing policy requires that when a purchase order is issued, it has the same authorization requirements as other matters. 1,000 by department heads, 5,000 by, up to 5,000 by the village administrator. Anything over 5,000 has to come before the board for approval.
Yeah, I didn't like the commingling of the township and Dalton. And I understand it, but this was supposed to be strictly for Dalton, right? And the taxpayers of Dalton are paying for this report. So, you know, it came up. She did it. What are you going to do, right?
Now, just to give you a little bit of context, we're going to be using this term as we go forward in this presentation. There's something called a warrant that is used that also dictates how municipal funds are spent. The warrant is typically created based upon invoices that are created by a vendor and submitted to the department head for approval. As we told you in August, there is no electronic process for the submission of invoices from vendors. Paper copies, typically sent either in by hand or by email, are sent to department heads for approval. They must then list them in an electronic payment system called My Viewpoint, and then that generates the items that appear on the warrant list. Based upon our investigation, there are essentially two kinds of warrant lists. There's an accounts payable warrant list, which includes most of the village's expenses. And then there's a second warrant list that's called the electronic list, which includes payments made by wire, ACH, credit card, or any other electronic or online method.
Yeah, you're right, Wyoming. And Bob, good morning. Good morning, Berg. Yeah, you got to read between the lines in this report because she's not going to say everything that she knows. Lori Lightfoot, you know she knows tons of stuff. But legal actions, right? She's not there as a prosecutor. She's there as an investigator. Yeah, unethical, negligent, mismanagement, right. And I know a lot of people are disappointed with the report, but that's up to the taxpayers of Dalton. Was it worth it to them?
The village expenditures, as reflected on the warrant list, are then reviewed and approved by the board at each board meeting. And after an expense is approved by the board, Janice Johnson, who's the Director of Administrative Services, is supposed to prepare a check for signature and payment. However, if Ms. Johnson is directed by Mayor Henyard or someone else, or there are insufficient funds to pay the item on the warrant list, then those checks are held. And apart from payroll, the accounts payable warrant list reflects invoices that have been submitted for approval and payment but not yet paid. And we understand from the John Kasparic accounting firm, which is essentially the outside firm for the Village of Dalton, that there are many items that appear on the electronic warrant list that have already been approved before they are presented to the board. Now, next slide. As it relates to credit card expenditures, we also understand from John Kasparic personnel that credit card balance is paid as a matter of course, meaning that as the bill becomes due, it's paid before it reaches the board for approval. In general, credit card expenses are only added to the warrant list when there's a receipt submitted. What we found is that many credit card expenditures never make it onto the warrant list for approval, in part because there is not a system for ensuring that there are receipts for the various credit card purchases.
And that's why we don't see them on the warrant list, right? Remember I kept asking, where's that $30,000 for Amazon? And we looked up the 4715, and that said outdoor accessories. That's all it said. Now in the Lightfoot report, it says, what are those, ice tiles, whatever they call them. So maybe that's why they're not on the warrant list, because we never saw the $33,000. Remember? So could be. Yeah. I don't know. How do you count up that many checks that were never mailed? I'm a little confused by that number. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just a little confused at how they came up with that many checks.
And what this means, unfortunately, is that the Board of Trustees, in many instances, was not able to even track or see credit card purchases that were being done over the last few years. Let's give a little background on Mayor Tiffany Henyard. As many of you,
I'm not sure why they're doing a background on Tiffany Henyard. That I didn't get. Did anybody understand why the background on Henyard? And like I said, this is up to the residents. They're the ones that have to pay for this. The categories are not descriptive. Yeah. Lori provided that number, but I wonder where she got it from. You know what I mean? I'm not saying she's lying. I believe her. I'm just wondering, did they physically count, that large number of checks sitting on some, and whose desk are they sitting on? Tangenique's, Keith, is it Freeman? Yeah, Freeman. Yeah, I didn't understand that. If the produced check with software, it's easy to count on how many checks are written. Oh, thank you, Wyoming. See, that's what I love about this chat. My mother's putting away groceries, so don't mind her. The report or what happened? Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting she would do the background. I'm not sure why that. Doesn't everybody already know her background by now? It's been plastered everywhere. So we'll fast forward. There we go.
and worked only remotely. The position has been vacant, again, since early 2024. As I mentioned before, the Director of Administration is Janice Johnson. And you remember from my discussion about the purchasing policy, where there's supposed to be somebody who's a staff accountant that is responsible for monitoring and overseeing the purchase of goods and services on behalf of the village. There's no such position that exists in the village of Dalton.
Can you imagine that? There's no position to oversee the finances in the village. What about before 2024? You got to look into what she's saying, because she said since a certain month in 2024, but what about before that? Bob, there's lots of money missing. There's lots of receipts missing. There's receipts for stuff that make no sense. This is all, This all has to, all the makings of massive fraud and siphoning off the funds, allegedly. Well, let me see here. Oh, that's not the report I want to bring up. Now, I did want to present this before we go any further. Okay. Now, this is a financial report of March of 2024. Cash and cash equivalents in the general fund minus $2,496,855.97. You can see it there clear as day. You know, you can't make it up. But there's the other one. But then you have property taxes that boost it up, right? Then you've got your special revenue funds and your debt service funds. Debt service funds are your bonds, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's March of 2024.
As a result of the small staff
Thank you so very much, Ruth.
in managing the city finances, the John Kasparic firm has essentially become the in-house, although they're outside, but the in-house financial department for the village of Dalton. Because there were a limited number of personnel, they became the de facto finance department. This remains true to this day. Kasparic firm has a junior staffer who is embedded in the village, and that person is here multiple times a week. There's a senior person that oversees that junior staffer, and the John Kasparic firm is involved in virtually every aspect of the finances of the village. Reconciling bank records, assisting in the preparation of payroll, creating those monthly warrant lists, village accounting records, as well as a variety of other expenses. And as you might imagine, ladies and gentlemen, that kind of work, day in and day out, month after month, is not cheap. So the village is paying an extraordinary amount for outside services because it doesn't have the staff internally to do that.
And we've seen on the warrant list how much they're paying. You know, Kasparic, $46,000, $26,000 a month. You know, we've seen those. I'm going to start doing those warrant lists on a live because I've been having trouble with the microphone and people can't hear it. So I'll do that too. But how's the likes coming up there, Potato? Yeah. Pretty much everybody was fired, right? And I thought the trustees had the power to hire and fire. And that's why when Tiffany tried to fire Freeman, the trustee said no. But what about the finance person, the finance director, Tangenique, Janice? What about those people? Did Tiffany fire them, and was that illegal to fire them? Is there going to be a lawsuit filed for that? These are questions I'm just asking the chat to get a clear, answer. Yeah, how do you know? But did she quit? Maybe. Oh, okay. So we'll continue on.
And in the absence of the director of finance, without the board of trustees being directly involved, there is very little oversight over the work that's being done on your behalf.
DJ, good morning.
Now, I want to also now shift gears and talk about some key events that have led to some of the financial crises that the village is experiencing. And what we found in our investigation, and as
well, Douglas, Freeman, Dorothy Brown, I know they mentioned Dorothy Brown. Dorothy Brown had a contract for only 6 months. It's recorded in the board meetings. She was only supposed to be there for 6 months, $50,000, and then they would hire a new village administrator. Okay, that's how that went. And then Tiffany wanted Freeman in there. The entire board said they They were impressed with him. They liked him. They didn't like the fact that, they didn't have time to sit down and properly vet him, and they wanted a background check. What happened after that? Because the trustees say there was no background check, and yet he was hired. So I'm confused on that.
Based on a review of contemporaneous documents and witness interviews that beginning at least as early as late 2021, there was a concerted, systematic effort on behalf of Mayor Henyard and others in her administration to hide the true financial condition of the village of Dalton from the trustees and from members of the public.
Yeah, a lot of holes.
To step back, let's talk about what the state of play was before Mayor Henyard became mayor. What we found is that prior to that time, the Kasparic firm would provide 3 different and important categories of information to the entire Board of Trustees, key city personnel, to make sure that folks were up to speed on a real-time basis as to what the circumstances were, both of expenses and revenue, and whether or not the expenses and revenue were on track with budget projections. They created a weekly report reflecting what work they did on behalf of the village. Monthly financial statements with the detailed notes memorized in an accompanying memo. Warrant list, which detailed the expenditures that could be presented at board meetings. And for a time, Kasparic firm also prepared and shared a payroll list. Now, initially, in 2021, at the beginning of Mayor Henyard's term, Chris Marabali of the Kasparic firm caused these documents to be sent to a wide array of people on an email. Right. Again, the trustees, key city employees, and Mayor Henyard herself. But this practice began to change in the fall of 2021. What we see in the fall of 2021 is the start of the effort to make sure that the trustees did not have full access to information about the true financial condition of the village's finances. And I want to walk you through step-by-step evidence that we were able to review that was memorialized contemporaneously, primarily in emails. In September 28, 2021, in an email to John Kasparic, Chris Marabali, remember this guy who's responsible for supervising the work here at Dalton, noted, quote, "The mayor has requested that the warrant list for both electronic and regular billing be sent to her first."
Yeah, June, can you prove it? I know there's a lot of money. They're in debt up to their asses. They have been for over a decade. We've proved it here. And that's where we have to be careful, right? How did they steal the money? That's my question. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just asking the question, how did they do it? How did they do it?
For review and approval prior to it being released to the board. On October 4th, 2021, Trustee House emailed Marabali seeking missing payroll reports that he had not received since the August 27, 2021 payroll. That same day, Marabali forwarded that email from Trustee House to Mayor Henyard and sought advice on how to respond. On October 21st, 2021, Chris Marabali reported to John Kasparic via email that Mayor Henyard was very upset with him because he disclosed in a board meeting that she had directed him not to send trustees payroll records.
Did she just say what board meeting that was? Because I'd love to look up that board meeting. Anybody in the chat, did she say what board meeting that was? because Kasparek always came in for finance, right? Meetings. We've seen all those. I wonder what board meeting it was.
There's a board meeting that precedes this October 21st date, where you can see on the YouTube video that she's asking him, did I
In my professional opinion, yes.
tell you not to send this information? He answered in the affirmative, and that was the source of her anger with him. He was later called into a meeting with the mayor, in the presence of Janice Johnson and Dorothy Brown, and the mayor in effect told him that he should never contradict her in public and that he should shade the truth. By November of 2021, a split between Henry and certain trustees was in full bloom and played out in the trustees shrinking access to village financial information.
Sorry.
Again, traded December financials and a corresponding memo list, including the trustees. But by February 9th, Trustee Steve sent an email to Barabali and others objecting to not having received payroll reports for approval and saying that he would not provide his consent for approval by the board if he did not receive those payroll records ahead of time. Trustee House concurred in that same email chain. On February 24th, and this is an important date, Barabali transmitted the January financials and the accompanying Miller only to Tanjani Miller. At that point, the trustees were cut out. On March 9th, 2022, Barabali sent his weekly report to the mayor, trustees, and others. The next day, Freeman admonished Barabali and said, quote, "Chris, please stop sending these emails to everyone. It is a direct violation of the Open Meetings Act. Send this information to Ms. Miller and Janice," meaning Janice Johnson, end quote. I can tell you that the mere transmittal of information where there's no actual action being taken is not a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So in sum,
How are we doing on those likes? Potato, Karen, Wyoming. I recall a Zoom where Jason asked why approved stuff was not being paid, and Chris said there was a $500,000 check written, but no funds to cover it yet. Ooh, mouse toes.
by March 2022, the trustees were effectively cut off from receiving regular financial reports generated by the Kasparek firm, which would have provided them with information on the true financial condition of the village, and they would have been able to see at that point that there was a...
Well, I don't know. I'd like to get 40 likes. What do you guys think? What do you think? I think so. So let's do a little backyard. People don't think I have cameras set up. Look at those bucks.
increase in expense.
Yeah, how did they get the credit card statements? I thought I heard her say that They had trouble getting the statements, right?
Expenses as we reported previously,
No.
while at the same time, there was not revenue to match those expenses. Now I want to shift gear and talk to you a little bit about FOIA. Now, this is not a FOIA class. I'm not going to go in chapter and verse. But the bottom line, as many of you know, is that under Illinois law, municipalities are required to keep and produce the records of governance to anybody who asks for them, with a narrow set of exceptions. And that
Which card, Douglas? From what I understand, there were quite a few of them, right? Which card? Did Tiffany ever use one of those credit cards, or did she have other people use them for her?
That means that the municipality has to set up a process by which people who want certain kinds of information can get that information, and that they have a certain timeline in which they have to provide that information. They can ask for an extension of time. But what they cannot do is simply ignore requests coming in through the Freedom of Information Act.
Okay, gotta have the moose before we, get some likes in here. Moosies. Dear. You notice how quiet the woods are? Hit the like button.
Now, from May 21st, from May of 2021 through September of 2023, based on our review of relevant FOIA records and witness testimony, there were a significant number of FOIA requests that came into the village. Most of these requests were ordinary type.
That's a good point, June. Tree cutting. Now, was the hiring of what's his name and the family members at the Dalton Township or Dalton? Because remember, this presentation is only for Dalton. Well, it's only supposed to be for Dalton, right? And I think that's just where everything gets confused. And I don't believe they should have two seats like this. I don't believe it. I think it's wrong. Myself, personally.
People asking about particular addresses within the village, people seeking other information. But what we started to see in 21, and then it increased steadily over time, is people asking very specific information about the governance of the village. And in particular, asking information about how money was being spent.
That's it, Wyoming? Only July through December 2024? Well, there should be a heck of a lot more credit card purchases on there, shouldn't there?
At the beginning of Mayor Henyer's tenure, Clerk Allison Key was responsible for FOIA requests. According to Clerk Key, when a FOIA request would come in, she and her team would review it, then they would send it to the relevant department. There were FOIA liaisons for each department, and it was their responsibility to look for responsive documents and then provide them to Clerk Key so that she could respond to the FOIA. The increased number of FOIAs over time posed a challenge given the limited resources that were devoted to FOIA. So what we saw is a very small staff, very few resources, and an expanding number of FOIAs that came in. There were not sufficient resources to be able to meet.
Well, I guess we need one more like, right? Look at that. Look at that. And no, potato. You can't have a buck. Let me know when there's one more like it so we can get to 40. Not playing games anymore. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, didn't they do something with? Wasn't it Freeman that did that? Is I wouldn't doubt. Ah, yeah. Hope they lost the data. They stated giving information after Freeman flipped. I gotta ask you a question. Would Freeman have flipped if he didn't get charged with bankruptcy fraud? That's my question. Would he have come clean? Would he have, or would he just kept on going?
In the governance of the village of Dalton. Now, there were many allegations that we received that Mayor Henyard ordered village personnel to simply stop responding to FOIA. We were not able to verify those allegations, in part because village employees who reported directly to Mayor Henyard did not cooperate in our investigation. However, in April of 2023, trustees passed an ordinance intended to get the FOIA process back on track. And that ordinance read in part, quote, whereas the Board of Trustees finds that the village has experienced an insurmountable backlog of FOIA requests due to failures of village staff to respond to requests for information from the FOIA officer at the instruction of the mayor and her village administrator. The trustees obviously believe that that's precisely what had happened, which is the mayor had instructed people within the departments not to respond to FOIAs. Now, despite the passage of this ordinance, the FOIA process didn't improve. And in fact, it continued to break down the non-cooperation of village staff. And
talk about memberships. You mean hit the join button for a membership? Is that what you mean? Oh, let me see if I can do something. Let me see. Let me see if I can do something. Where? Well, it's not coming up for me. Oh, here it comes. I guess it's slow. Oh, no. I don't want to join my own channel. I'm getting there. So, sir. There you go. Hopefully you'll get one. Okay. And for everybody that doesn't want to hit the like button, you're not going to be able to see. Where is it? Share the screen. This. So, hit the like button. Okay, back to it.
Many of whom simply, according to Clerk Key, simply stopped responding to her when she would send them FOIAs. And as a result, you know what's happened. Some of you, I'm sure, experienced it directly when you filed FOIAs.
Right.
There were appeals made to the Attorney General, and in some instances, people simply filed suit. Now, one key milestone that I want to bring to your attention is when Clerk Key was stripped of her jurisdiction over FOIA. As you can see from the screen, she received an email from Keith Freeman on September 7th, 2023. And in this email, I'll read the body of it. Dear Clerk Key, I am writing to inform you that you are hereby removed from your duty as a FOIA officer, effective immediately. Your inability to...
Is that legal? The clerk is the keeper of the records, right? is that legal for her to be removed from the FOIA officer? Isn't that one of the duties of the clerk? Not quite sure, but that would be my question. And yeah, why did Carmen flip? Because she knew she was in trouble, right?
Process FOIA requests in a complete and timely manner has left us no choice but to restructure our process going forward. The village has redirected FOIA officer duties to another party, and as such, your services are no longer needed. I have advised all.
Oh my God, Anthony, did she really? I didn't know that. Okay, my apologies. I hope she's okay. That's serious stuff, having a stroke. Serious stuff.
Department heads of the change. Now, I want to be clear that Clerk Key denies the various allegations in Freeman's email.
Yeah?
But I want to lift up a couple of things that I think are notable about this email in particular. When you see the language, the village has redirected FOIA officer duties to another party. Note in this email, he doesn't say who that other party is.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And what we know from our investigation is that we were never able to determine who that person was that's actually handling FOIA and whether or not that person received the proper training. FOIA is not easy. There's a lot of nuances that are involved in the statute to make sure that there's proper compliance. We have no idea to this day whether or not the person or persons who was handling FOIA actually received proper training. There was no effort to take over the files of pending FOIA requests, and there was no process put in place for transitioning of the responsibilities from Clerk Key and her team to the unknown new FOIA.
Well, Clerk Key didn't have a team because Henyard fired her assistant, right? Deputy clerk. So Clerk Key didn't have a team. Can you imagine? And, you know, this is in defense of Clerk Key. Once this hit the airwaves, everybody was putting in FOIA requests. Can you imagine all of the FOIAs sitting on that desk? I can't. It must have been mind-boggling. And she's part-time. Clerk Key is part-time. Let's not forget that. She's not a full-time employee. So don't forget that.
There's plenty of evidence, and again, I think you all have experienced it firsthand, that after Clerk Key was removed of her responsibilities over FOIA, the FOIA process didn't get better. If anything, it got worse. And these issues continue to this day. Now, let's shift gears.
Yeah. Where's the minutes and where's the ordinances? That's the problem I have with Clerk Key and the whole administration. That website, it was supposed to be up and running. House and Key stated it would be. All that information would be on the website, and it's not.
And we're going to talk about financial management concerns. There was an opportunity for the Village of Dalton to take advantage of a $5 million appropriation that had been put in place from one of the
Cubby, welcome.
State legislatures on behalf of the Village of Dalton. This was in the state fiscal year 2023. However, that appropriation, for some reason that we were not able to ascertain, was never taken advantage of. Meaning, those monies never came into the Village of Dalton. So, $5 million that could have significantly helped the financial fortunes of this village got recycled and went elsewhere, but never came to the Village of Dalton. I want to talk to you next about the American Rescue Plan dollars and funding that came to the Village of Dalton.
Yeah, Coffee. was it Freeman that went in to the computers? Somebody remind me in the chat who did that. I thought it was Freeman, but I'm not sure. Be held for slander.
As many of you know, the American Rescue Plan was put into place by the Biden-Harris administration to help municipalities, cities, counties, states recover from the economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the village received an allocation through the state, which was appropriated in 2 tranches from the Illinois Comptroller's Office. You can see in this chart, the first tranche came in September of 2021, and the next big tranche came again in September of 22 for a total of just over $3 million. The U.S. Treasury Department had very strict reporting requirements on how municipal governments.
Okay, she's going to go into ARPA funds, right? Why aren't you talking about the bonds and the money owed to Chicago? This is your complete report. And I understand it. You know, the procedures, the processes, okay. I don't know why you had to get into Tiffany's history. It's been plastered all over the internet for 2 years now. But get to the meat and potatoes about the bonds and the Chicago water that you owe in the millions. That would be a deficit, right? I don't think so, Douglas.
Use those ARPA dollars. Somebody was supposed to be designated as the ARPA reporting person responsible for making sure that they were complying with.
Oh, Chicago did. They made a settlement in 2017 for $11 million. And they are still paying that today. I think it was 1.2 or 1.3 million extra a year they have to pay Chicago for water. Chicago sued the village of Dalton. Nobody wants to talk about it. I don't know why. It's simple.
U.S. Treasury regulations, but contemporaneous documentation that we have seen and confirmed in recent communications is that no one from the village actually took the responsibility to complete the reporting information.
Yeah.
The access to the reporting portal was set up for Ms. Miller, the former finance director, but there's no evidence that she actually made the required reporting of how ARPA dollars were used here in the village. And based on the records that we have seen, there's approximately $1.7 million left of the ARPA funds and is held in a specific capital projects account. Based on what we've seen in the financial documents, the ARPA funds were used in a variety of ways, which you can see from this chart. As you noted, there's a big category of $481,379 called other expenses. This was used for a variety of different things, from construction materials and supplies.
Yeah, Anthony, I understand that. But they're trying to prove the debt of the village, right? So why not include the debt? $4 million for 4 bonds a year plus $1.2, $1.3 million owed to the city of Chicago every year. They take these bonds out every year, plus interest. Plus they have to pay a bond, what do they call them? Conduit. And I understand this is federal, but this is supposed to be about finances of the village. And you have to include that because the village has been in debt for over a decade. You can't get around it. You know what I mean? I hope I'm not sounding snarky or anything.
lawn care, pest control, utilities, sprinkler installation, but none of these things were specifically approved by the board.
No.
Now, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Amanda Kite, who's going to walk you through
Oh, yeah.
some more detailed information on the financial status as of October 31st, 2024. Take a look.
So now we're going to walk through and largely provide an update to the financial information that was presented back in August.
Individual, welcome.
And we've been provided records that cover the first 6 months of the village's fiscal year 2025. As of October 2024, the village's general fund, which is the fund that's used to account for the majority of the village's operations, remains in.
Well, the bonds are taken out by the village. They have to take out bonds every year to pay the bills. And how they pay those bonds back are when taxpayers pay their property taxes. It's been going on for over a decade, you know? And yes, investor. Where'd you go? There you are. Yeah. They can essentially be used for anything. Okay.
The net deficit position. However, the deficit position has decreased or improved from the information that was presented in August. And as of October 2024, the general fund's net deficit.
I'd have to disagree, Earl. This is not a complete account of all the money. Am I reading that wrong? She gave a complete account of all the money, rather is state, federal. No, she didn't. And I'm sorry, I have to disagree with that because we've shown all the warrant lists. We've shown the bonds, the short-term, long-term debt. We've showed all of that, and it's just not in this report.
Position is currently $2.4 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
Additionally, during the first 6 months of fiscal year 2025, the average monthly expenditures of the village have also decreased.
Yeah.
Through fiscal year 2024, the village was spending on average $2.5 million per month. During the first 6 months of fiscal year 2025, that number is.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Pay what money back, Clayton? The bond money? Oh no, they paid the bonds. They definitely paid the bonds, and they're definitely paying Chicago back. They were almost in receivership. You know, the state was going to take them over in 2017. Correct me if I'm wrong, individual.
Down to $2.1 million per month on average.
Yeah.
Following along with that,
I think it's also important to note that when we provided an update back in August of last year, which laid out many of these numbers and showed the village in really dire financial condition, the trustees immediately took action to address particularly the spending side of the ledger, significantly reducing the number of credit card access, working with banks, restructuring some of the expenses. So that accounts in part for the reduction in expenses. And as Amanda explained, there are other factors that contributed to this, but I wanted to note that the trustees heeded the concerns that we raised back in August and took specific action, many times in opposition from Mayor Henry, to make sure that they were starting the process of putting the village back on better financial footing.
so following along with that, the decrease in expenditures, during the first 6 months of fiscal year 2025, the village's expenditures have matched the revenues that came in during that time period. This is in comparison with the same time period in fiscal year 2024,
Yeah.
where the gap in revenue to expenditures was almost $5 million. So the expenditure and revenue gap has improved. This gap decrease is for two primary reasons. First being, as of October fiscal 2025, revenues are approximately $3 million more than compared to the same time period in fiscal year 2024, which is largely due to the timing of when the property taxes were released to the village. In 2023 and 2024, property taxes weren't released until November or December, where in fiscal 2025, they were released
Yeah, but Paul didn't get paid. I'm sorry.
much earlier. But additionally, expenditures have gone down, most notably general administration, police department expenditures, and public works. A couple of categories that we found significant decreases is in general administration, telephone, and miscellaneous expenditures, as well as in police department overtime and medical insurance. The village's cash balance has remained generally the same since the information that was presented in August. As you can see from the chart, as of May 2024, the general fund had an unrestricted cash deficit of almost $5.7 million. As of October 24, that amount is a deficit of around $5.5 million. And this deficit includes the amount of held checks that the mayor discussed previously. Those are reflected in these deficit balances. Regarding those held checks, as we presented in August, since March of 2023 and nearly every month since then, a portion of the checks that were approved and printed have had to be held. As of June 18th,
Yeah, right. Or you can't send out the checks when you don't have money, right?
2024, this was 589 checks that totaled over $6 million, which were approved but had not yet been sent to vendors. Since the August presentation, we've requested but had not been provided an updated listing of the current status of the village's held checks. However, we've been told, though not able to verify, that the current amount is still in excess of $5 million. Turning now to discuss the village's use of credit cards. As we discussed in the August presentation, we're aware of 6 different credit cards that have been in use by the village at various points in time from January 2021 through at least June of 2024. Since
I just want to, comment about the credit cards. We are working on comparing the credit card purchases with functions. Let's put it nicely.
the August presentation, we did request updated credit card statements that would cover July 2024 through December 2024, but we did not receive any updated credit card records. As you can see from the chart, the use of credit cards steadily increased from calendar year 2021 through 2023. In 2023, the village spent over $775,000 on credit cards.
How much?
As the mayor earlier discussed, oftentimes credit card expenditures have no accompanying receipts. And this credit card statements alone provide limited information about the credit card purchases. Given this overall lack of available documentation, it is not possible for us to ascertain important information about the village's credit card use, such as who made the purchase, was it an approved purchase, and what was the government purpose. This type of additional information is necessary to perform a complete investigation of the credit card use and to draw any conclusion about any individual purchase. That being said, through our investigation, we did identify certain categories of expenses that stand out, which the village may wish to pursue additional information to further understand the nature of the charges.
But Earl, I have all the financial reports. So I'm not sure about that. Did Freeman block them? There's monthly financial reports, and I have them, and I've been posting them. So is he just blocking them from the trustees, and how did I get them? It's just a question. I'm not arguing. Just a question.
For example, from 2021 through June of 2024, village credit cards were used for over $171,000 in travel-related costs. Things such as airfare, excess baggage fees, hotels, meals, rental cars. There are over $51,000 spent at local area restaurants, as well as expenditures at retailers such as Dick's Sporting Goods, Best Buy, Wayfair, Walgreens, Apple, and Walmart. Now, some of these expenditures, but not all, are reflected on the electronic warrant lists that we were provided and reviewed. However, the level of detail in the description of what the purchase is for varies by purchase. Some purchases have very limited information, and the description is simply the name of the merchant, or more vague descriptions such as meals or donuts. Others provide more information, such as training accommodations or code enforcement lunch. One area in our investigation where we were able to obtain detailed purchase information relates to Amazon purchases.
Trustees overrode a veto.
Sorry.
Hotels, meals.
Coffee, you're right. How does that go unchecked? My God, $800,000 in credit cards. Is this a mixture of Township and Dalton? This is why I don't agree with these mixed positions.
Rental cars. There are over $51,000 spent at local area restaurants, as well as expenditures at retailers such as Dick's Sporting Goods, Best Buy, Wayfair, Walgreens, Apple, and Walmart.
And don't forget Calumet Bakery.
Some of these expenditures, but not all, are reflected on the electronic warrant lists that we were provided and reviewed. However, the level of detail in the description of what the purchase is for varies by purchase. Some purchases have very limited information, and the description is simply the name of the merchant, or a more vague description such as meals or donuts. Others provide more information, such as training accommodations or code enforcement lunch.
Yeah, we heard about the meals, right, for the task force and Dunkin' Donuts. We showed that, right, in the warrant list. It goes unchecked because the trustees didn't know. Yeah. There were several arguments about lack of credit card statements being produced in the meetings. We've all heard it, right, Wyoming? They weren't getting the information. And who's at fault?
One area in our investigation where we were able to obtain detailed purchase information relates to Amazon purchases. The vast majority of purchases made by the village on Amazon were paid for with village credit cards. From January 2021 through June of 2024, the village spent approximately $218,000 on purchase from Amazon using village credit cards, the largest spending of which occurred in 2023.
Don't forget Nikita Cloud saying that to you with the trustees. They ate good. I mean, they tried every restaurant there was in Dalton and the surrounding areas, right? We've all seen them on the warrant list.
Now, the vast majority of the purchases on Amazon do appear to be for routine items such as office supplies, office furniture, and supplies for the police department. And the Amazon order details show that these orders were delivered either to Village Hall or to the police department. Additionally, many of the largest purchases on Amazon, 3 of which we identified in the August presentation, were related to materials or supplies for the skating rink. This includes $5,099 for artificial ice tiles, $33,000 for artificial ice tiles, $5,600 artificial ice tiles, $4,700 artificial ice tiles, and then $3,700 for ice skates.
Yeah. Well, no, on the warrant list, Karen, it says office supply. And, you know, the warrant lists are very detailed. But, again, who made up the warrant list? Didn't Lightfoot say the Kasperick Group? I thought it was Freeman. I thought.
Ladies and gentlemen, let me just pick up and conclude on the Amazon purchases. The various routine office supply and office furniture purchases simply do not appear to be in compliance with the village's purchasing policy as we described. There appears to be no centralized purchasing or inventory control as required in the purchasing policy. So while we were able to see that these various purchases were delivered either to...
Excellent point, as usual. Individual. Excellent point.
Village Hall or to the police department, there is no tracking system for what happened to them after they arrived here. And while Janice Johnson was listed as the originator for a number of these purchases, what we saw in the Amazon records is that there were 9 other purchasing sources identified in the Amazon records. So lots of people were billing, charging things and purchasing them from Amazon. And we certainly found no evidence that the purchases related to the ice rink that were done in 5 separate purchases totaling approximately $48,000, that they were done consistent with the purchasing policy either. For example, we were unable to find evidence that these purchases were done as a result of competitive bidding process, which an amount of that size would have been triggered by the purchasing policy, nor is there evidence that these particular purchases were presented to the board prior to approval. As you will see, one of the recommendations that we're making to the board is to institute a written policy for performing background checks of prospective village senior and key personnel. There are 3 personnel that we call out on the slide, and based on our investigation, these and other individuals either working for the village or proposed by Mayor Henyard to assume key roles have issues in their background that likely would be disqualifying if they had been properly vetted. Now, I want to go through some of the consequences, because of course there has been consequences of all the things that we've already talked about. You can't have a situation where there are no financial controls, where the trustees...
I didn't see the ice, Wyoming. I didn't see the 33K. Okay, but like I've said before, I didn't have the electronic warrant list for February of 2023. I can't seem to get that for some reason. Maybe it's on that, right? But that 4715 was for outdoor accessories on the warrant list anyways.
Are systematically excluded from finding out the true nature of the financial condition of the village, where there's a routine process of exceeding the amounts of revenue with expenses, some of which may or may not be for a legitimate government purpose. The first of these cascading consequences is the audit. As I noted at the beginning of this presentation, under Illinois law, every municipality over a certain size is required to have a financial audit of its books and records every single year, and to produce that audit to the comptroller's office. The fact of the matter is that for the last several years, the village's auditor had been an accounting firm, an auditing firm known as Lauterbach and Amann. Draft audits for fiscal year 2022 were completed, but they were never finalized. And then Laudermack and Amon resigned as auditor on October 27, 2024, effective immediately, which is essentially less than 3 weeks after we had our first public disclosure of the true financial condition of the village. And on October 15, 2024, the Illinois Comptroller's Office notified the village that it was going to force an audit on the village for not complying with the mandatory audit reporting requirement. Now, as I noted, there are literally hundreds of municipalities across this state that have long-standing delinquencies in filing their reports, but for some reason, the comptroller decided that Dalton was going to be the example. Next slide.
Yeah, that got me. All these municipalities are not handing in audits. And for some reason, they wanted to make Dalton the example. That sticks out to me for some reason. I don't know why. But if all of these municipalities are not turning in audits, and Dalton is not the only one, why did they focus on Dalton? It's a question.
One of the other consequences that we've seen over the course of Mayor Henyard's tenure is a significant uptick in litigation. According to court records maintained by the Legislative Council, 48 separate lawsuits have been filed against the village under Mayor Henyard's tenure. 12 pending matters relate to FOIA violations, and 8 pending matters by village vendors allege improper revocation or failure to renew business licenses. And you may have seen recent reporting that on Friday, Mayor Henyard herself was held in criminal contempt for failing to sign a liquor license for an existing business owner here in the village, despite being ordered by the court to do so multiple times. Those have costs. Next, I'm going to walk you through the insurance issue, because insurance is a significant cost in the budget for the village of Dalton. The village's insurance needs are primarily handled by 2 entities: an insurance broker, which is Insured Source LLC, and something called a third-party administrator, which currently is Charles Taylor, TPA. In 2024, the village's insurance coverage became at risk due to late or non-payment of fees. The village's premium financing company sought to avoid its contract with the village, and let me explain what that means. There is a finance company that fronts the money for the village's various insurance costs. And
I have a difficult thing that we're working on with insurance. That's all I can say.
the village pays it back on a monthly basis. But because of non-payment, that finance company walked away from its responsibilities and said, we're not going to we're not going to finance any future funds to the village to pay its insurance. That created a bit of a crisis. The village's longtime third-party administrator, that's the entity that then pays claims that are made by people that trigger the insurance policies. That third-party administrator also walked away and refused to renew its agreement with the village, again, as a result of problems in payment. And then long-time insurance carriers. The village had, like most municipalities, has multiple insurance carriers that cover their insurance, particularly liability insurance. Many of those long-time carriers canceled in the spring of 2024 or declined to renew the village's policies. Next slide. Now, this came at a critical time. The renewal period for village insurance is early.
Well, I think that's going to be the FBI, right? They could certainly get them, Clayton, couldn't they? Am I wrong?
August of every year. Typically 60 days before that time, the insurance broker will start negotiating, renewing terms of coverage with the various insurers. You have the TPA walk away, which
Wyoming gets the prize for the day.
is known to the insurance companies covering the village. You have the finance company walk away, which is known to the village. And the fact that these other carriers decided not to renew, that also sent a ripple through the insurance market. As a result of the efforts of the insurance broker, he reached out to 36 different insurers, including 10 excess insurers and then 26 non-excess carriers.
So serve and say, we're going to be going through that. Not today, but we are compiling a truckload of information on that. How are you feeling? Are you feeling any better? Our prayers are for you.
5 carriers chose not to renew their coverage for the village. 13 carriers declined to quote coverage for the village, meaning they weren't even interested in providing a quote. And 1 carrier simply didn't respond. And of the excess carriers who provided a quote, they set their threshold for coverage very, very high. 2 set it at $25 million, 4 set it at 10, and 2 at 5, and 1 declined, again, to quote any coverage. Now, the village was eventually able to obtain coverage for the 2024-25 period. However, there were 2 important concessions that the village was compelled to make in order to make sure that it had insurance coverage from August of 2024 to August of 2025. As you can see from this slide, the village was compelled to pay more for less coverage. We have here a kind of side-by-side comparison of what the coverage was under general liability, law enforcement, public official, and auto liability. In the preceding year, the coverages were almost equal at $11 million. But as you can see, in the current coverage period, there's a significant decrease in the amount of insurance coverage that the village now has to handle whatever liability issues may come up. The other significant concession was that the insurance carriers refused to cover Mayor Henry. As you can see,
Wow, that certainly sparked the crowd.
in the third bullet, there's a quote directly from the insurance policy. The insurer covers all elected officials, provides that as a separate part of its coverage, but specifically in writing excluded any claim made against any insured which is brought by, on behalf of, or against the following entities or individuals.
Individual, always an excellent point. $33 million. What was it? A $900,000 suit settlements. All these settlements for this village. All the lawsuits going on. I don't know. If you had an insurance company, would you touch this village? Especially when they're in junk status, right, with their credit, and they don't pay anybody.
And that is Tiffany Henry. And the emphasis here was in the original. This coverage exclusion regarding Mayor Henry also applied not only to the general liability policy, but also the law enforcement policy. Now, there are implications for the village given the cancellation of coverage for Mayor Henry during this coverage period. Mayor Henry will have to pay for all defensive costs related to her out-of-pocket.
Potato. I wish you a very good day. Okay, we love you.
Or the village could decide on its own to pay for her coverage, but it won't be covered by the insurance carriers. Now, Mayor Henry would then be responsible for any judgments, settlements, or attorney's fees rendered against her personally, separate from the village. And there's an open question as to whether or not Mayor Henry will participate in litigation that she has to pay for herself, and what that would mean for the village if she simply defaults, meaning doesn't show up, doesn't participate in ongoing litigation. So the absence of coverage has significant implications for the village and for the taxpayers of the village of Dalton. Other implications. The fire department. After 2 years with no resolution of a contract, finally in the fall of 2024, Legislative Council was able to reach a collective bargaining agreement with the fire department union, which a majority of the board approved over Mayor Henyard's objections. The village is currently in negotiations with the police department, but the challenge with that, negotiating that contract, is without audited financial statements. And remember, we said there's been no audit of the financial statements since fiscal year 2021. It's difficult for village negotiators to be able to project what revenues are going to be coming in so they know what a fair salary and compensation would be. Now, as we're winding down here, I'm going to cover quickly some other remaining items that I know are of interest to the public. And let's talk for a minute about the Las Vegas trips and the allegations.
Why? Why was this included in the report? I want to hear from the chat before I continue on. Why was this included in this report? Financial report. Why was it included? That was a criminal investigation. Las Vegas dropped the charges. Why is this included in the report? That's okay, Dave. I think it gets us all very heated. I mean, absolutely, she's costing them a ton. That $33.5 million suit is from before she was mayor. Lacey destroyed the dash cam footage. Ooh. You have insurance when you are in political office like mayor, etc. Keep you from paying more money out of your pocket in case you are involved in a court case. And, well, apparently she's going to have to pay for her own stuff, right? Yeah, the Las Vegas stuff was a waste. Why did she put this in the report? This is a financial report to let the public know about the finances of the village. So I'm a little clueless about that. Oh, Jason said that's why Lori was hired, to look into the allegations, because that was criminal. And Las Vegas closed the case. I know Fania's going to be suing, right? I hope so. I hope she, should I say I hope she wins the lawsuit? Maybe that's a bad thing to say, but I hope she does. It's going to cost the taxpayers buco money. But I didn't get this. Well, Las Vegas closed the case. And Lightfoot's going to say that in just a minute.
Against trustee Holmes. There are actually two trips. One in May 22 and another in May 2023, where Mayor Henyard and a large delegation went to an economic development convention in Las Vegas. The convention was called Recon, and that was put on by the International Council of Shopping Centers. Financial records from the village and Thornton Township reflect that a number of people traveled to Las Vegas on both of these trips. And the expenses of their travel, their lodging, their meals, and entertainment were paid for on village and township credit cards. There is no evidence that any business development opportunities came to the village as a result of either of these two trips. You're all aware of the fact that there were allegations against Trustee Holmes as a result of contacts between him and a former village employee on the May 2023 Las Vegas trip. We're not going to go into chapter and verse on this because we are not a criminal investigative authority, but suffice it to say.
So why mention this? I can understand investigating Vegas and everything that was spent there, but why discuss the Holmes Dukes case?
Say the allegations are that Holmes took advantage and assaulted a young woman while she was unconscious in his hotel room, that he contacted a village
Jews, welcome.
Dalton police officer who was also on the trip, FaceTimed him, showing the young woman unconscious on the hotel room, and some of you are aware that a recording of that FaceTime call has recently surfaced. The young
And I have a problem with that, and I'm sorry for pausing. As prior law enforcement, I have a problem with that. You have a police officer, active duty, with his phone recording an alleged sexual attack. Is that police officer, should they be held culpable for not reporting the crime as it was happening, alleged crime? That's a problem I have. I have a problem with that officer recording that and not picking up the phone to the Las Vegas police saying there is an essay in progress. I am filming it right now. It is in such and such a room at such and such a hotel. I'll never divert from my opinion on that. That officer was wrong. And I will never retract that statement.
The woman eventually filed complaints in Las Vegas and suburban Cook County. Fall of last year, the Las Vegas criminal authorities closed its case after its investigation. The young woman has also filed a complaint with the EOC alleging that she was wrongfully terminated from her employment as a result of making an outcry to Mayor Henyard directly about the alleged assault. And the young woman has subsequently filed a lawsuit which makes similar allegations, and that lawsuit remains pending. Importantly, neither the young woman, Trustee Holmes, or other witnesses cooperated with our investigation. Another thing that I think is important regarding this alleged incident between Trustee Holmes and this young woman. Working through the Delgado law firm, we learned that Mayor Henyard authorized an investigation to be conducted by a firm called R.E. Walsh and Associates out of Oak Brook, Illinois. This investigation was not authorized by the board, and the results have not been shared with the board. It is unknown to this day what the scope of the investigation was, who was interviewed, if anyone, what documents were reviewed as part of this investigation or its findings. The R.E. Walsh firm has refused to provide its report or otherwise answer any questions about its investigation because it has not been paid for its services. Let's talk for a moment about Thornton Township. In the course of our investigation, we received a lot of information that there was significant use of Thornton Township funds to cover expenses for the benefit of the village of Dalton. Similar to the lack of cooperation in the village, personnel under the control of Mayor Supervisor Henyard, we face obstacles obtaining documents from Thornton Township. We therefore are not suggesting, we do not have a complete picture of a variety of the allegations against Mayor Henyard and others in connection with the operation of the township. Nonetheless, we received some information to determine that a similar pattern of financial operations existed at the township during Mayor Henyard's tenure. For example, Credit card use. We were able to review records from May of 22 through October of 22, June of 23, January of 23 through June of 23, and January of 24 through June of 24. Obviously, not a complete set, but detailed records. Some of these records, excuse me, were heavily redacted. They look like the CIA put the documents through their censors. So it made analysis somewhat difficult. But we were able to decipher some of the records. There were multiple credit cards in use in Fulton Township, and the names of township employees specifically, such as Tony Sherman, Keith Freeman, Shelley Miles, Robert Hunt, Marsha Walker Brown, Tanika Hughes, William Moore, and others. In 2024, for example, based on those 6 months of records, monthly charges range from $88,000 a month to over $100,000 in many of those cities. And there were a significant number of food purchases and other expenditures that frankly warrant further investigation as to whether or not there was a legitimate government purpose for those expenses.
Wait. Did she just say that it warrants further investigation? I thought this was the final report. Sorry.
There was overlapping hiring and firing of township personnel. A number of witnesses that we interviewed indicated that within months of Tiffany Henry becoming supervisor on March 3rd, 2022, a number of long-standing employees lost their jobs. We heard many allegations about political retaliation, cronyism, and that people were let go because they questioned the seeming elimination of hiring and purchasing norms. Efforts to verify these allegations, principally through FOIA requests, did not bear fruit, as the township often claimed no responsive documents or failed to address specific FOIAs. We know that Henyard hired her boyfriend, Kamal Woods, to run a township youth program. His personnel file, such as it is, contained very little information to justify his hire. Tamika Henyard also became an employee of the township. And Henyard installed her former administrative assistant, Carmen Carlisle, to fill a vacancy left by the death of a long-standing trustee. We received information of various allegations of political retaliation. You are all, by this point, well aware of Henyard's treatment of Township Assessor Cassandra Elston that included locking Elston out of township offices and then later accusing Elston of abandoning her job. All of those things is well documented. We won't go into details. We were able to verify that longtime township employee Dwayne Thrash has alleged in a lawsuit that he was fired from his job, not because of competence or insubordination issues, as were later put into his personnel file, but because of refused efforts by Henyard and Freeman to agree to a plan to effectively let Henyard take control of a local suburban school district on which Thrash was one of 3 members. The alleged plan included creating a paid employee role for Henyard, firing other employees, and terminating a relationship with an existing law firm, and instead installing Henyard's chosen law firm. Can you guess? Thrash alleges that he would not agree to the plan and subsequently lost his Thornton Township employment in retaliation. Now, we have a number of recommendations that we are making to the trustees. I'm not going to spend time tonight going through those. The trustees have them. But suffice it to say, there are obvious things related to finance. There are obvious things related to personnel. And some of these things, as I indicated, the trustees have already started to embrace and implement, particularly with respect to putting guardrails around the finances of the village. And with that, we will close. Thank you for your time and attention.
Oh, and that's it. I'm sorry, Coffee. I think I was on mute when I said, "Oh, we're sorry to see you go." We appreciate everybody's input. You know, it's been a wonderful chat. How are we doing on the likes, mods? How are we doing before we move on to some interesting information? How are we doing on the likes? You know, get the likes up. We're not going to provide some information. 47, that's pretty good, right? That's right? Berg. You think so? Okay. So, zip through these comments and we appreciate you, Coffee. My mother really loves you. Yeah. What is that? Is that the same? Okay, so since we have the likes up, we're going to share a screen. And let me see if I can find it. I have so many screens up there. Let's talk about delinquent property taxes. Shall we? Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? Choose. This is part of Dalton's problem. What does that say? Total due, including interest, over $2 million. Now, this is public information. I'm gonna try not to expose anybody's information, but I do want to show you the total due taxes. And this might these are Dalton, even though it says Township Thornton, okay? The municipality is Dalton. And Tiffany Henyard's on here. Oh, by the way. Yeah, she owes taxes. Is anybody surprised? But there were a couple that I'll try to go slow and so you can screenshot it. I'm trying to keep the names out of there, but sometimes you just can't. Look at this. Total with interest, $148,000 in back taxes. 420 East, 142nd Street. So, what is that? Let's put it up on the screen. All right. Who owes that much in taxes? Is that the one? That's Pennsylvania. Which one did I have up? Oh, 42nd. Sorry. I put the 42nd one up. There we go. Here we go. Is that the one? Am I screwing that up? 142nd Street. I think I had the first one right. Sorry. Pause. I'm sorry. Sometimes things just don't work the way they're supposed to. Operator error. This is the one. This one right here. Okay. 142nd Street. No, that says Pennsylvania. Why am I doing this? I had this all set up, damn it. Anyways, these people owe big taxes too. Or are they? I mean, it's ridiculous that all of these taxes are owed, right? Why aren't they being collected? There's a whole slew of them. I mean, 110,000. Is that the one? Oh, that's a P.O. box on Washington Street. Okay. Why? 34,000. I mean, this is insane. Look at this one. $232,632.60. That's the Pennsylvania one. Let me put it up. That's the prize. So, this place right here, you can see it on the tax roll, delinquent. This place owes, with interest, $232,632.60. Right there. And these are from total amount due, including late fee, through Saturday, February 1st, 2025. It would really help the village if they would collect their taxes, wouldn't it? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Well, yeah, Tiffany's is, yeah. She owes what, 1,700? But these people owe over 200,000. Investor Douglas Riley owns an real estate development firm created after getting elected and dissolved after losing the hen yard. And there's a little sidekick to that, isn't there, individual? With some relatives. This property owes over $200,000 in taxes. And you got to wonder, if they collected all these taxes, look at them all. 165,000, 201,000. I mean, over $2 million in taxes owed. And a lot are for businesses. And the list goes on and on and on. Thank you, investor, individual. It just keeps, it goes on and on and on and on and on and on. Look at this. 217,000. It's unbelievable. Magnolia, welcome. Good to see you. Yes. Rogers. Who else is in real estate? Sitting on the board. Elected officials. I believe he did, Douglas. Real Magnolia. Yeah, it's a raggedy parking lot too. Yeah. Rogers. I mean, I didn't put the names up because, some of these are residentials and some people have problems paying their taxes. So I tried not to show the names, okay? But you could tell by the amount of taxes what are businesses and what are not. Tiffany Henyard owns a empty lot for whatever reason. Exactly, and who else? Karen's? Who else is into real estate? Yeah, we do. And well, I don't want to say because, yeah. uh, he is very intelligent. I could tell you that. Very intelligent. Yeah. Is he a real estate dealer though? Jason? I'm not sure. Yeah, allegedly. Well, they've outright said it. Brittany has said it and Ken has said it, right? But this could really help the village pay their bills, couldn't it? If they would just collect taxes and stop giving all these Class 8s because there's no businesses there. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like Tommy and Martin. But yeah, and we're going to look into each and every one of these for this buffoonery crap. They could clear up a lot of mess by collecting the taxes. Okay, I want to show one more thing before we get the flock out of here. And I'll be doing a live, maybe a live, I'm not quite sure. But my favorite subject, horse racing. You can see up here, I'm starting with $100. Okay. Ooh, Parks is going off in about 0 minutes. You want to watch a race? Real fast. Let me see. Who wants to watch a race? Anybody? Oh, sun's in my eyes. Okay. There we go. I'm not going to bet on this race because the percentages just aren't there. Oh, they're getting ready to run.
And now they're all in.
There we go.
Off and racing in the Tuesday opener. A bit of a slow start for I'm Not a Baby.
That's a
Breaking
lot of
right
horses.
On top, on the outside, Hey River angling in with some speed. Going right with him, October Bliss. Hey, what's up? Also going to be forwardly placed. They go by the finish line for the first time. October Bliss sticks his neck in front. He's flanked to the outside by Hey River on the inside by Hey, what's up? Skimming the rail. There's
Wow, they're
Casey
spread out.
O'Donnell. Then on the far outside, Imaginized in between horses, Lucky Running Cat, followed by Darvish. I'm Not a Baby, Fenwick Jack. It's Fast Payday. And well at the back, it's Mick Magic. Field fairly strung out as they make their run through the first turn, 23-2 for the opening quarter. And Hey, what's up? A narrow advantage over October Bliss. Those two slugging it out. Hey, River, he's back.
My
in
mother
third.
would bet that
Clancy
horse.
O'Toole is now
Hey,
taking
what's
that
up?
third spot in on the rail. Then it's back to Imaginize. They continue on down the backstretch again. The field well strung out here in October Bliss and Hey, what's up? Those two continue on even terms. Clancy O'Toole's into third on the outside. Hey, River. Then it's back to Imaginize, followed by Lucky Running Cat. He's into sixth. Fenwick Jack's moving a bit early today. He's weaving his way between horses. Darvish. Then I'm Not a Baby. Fast Payday. Well at the back and McMagic. He can see them all. 48 flat for the half. They go through the far turn. October Bliss sticks his nose in front. Hey, what's up? Continues to go with him. Fenwick Jack continuing to weave his way through horses. He's in sixth, looking for some room. He goes to the outside. Lucky Running Cat, he's advanced into third, trying to make his bid as well into his outside. It's going to be Clancy O'Toole, who's making his move as well. They go around the far turn. October Bliss has the lead, but maybe not for long on the outside. Lucky Running Cat comes up alongside him. Clancy O'Toole, 3 wide. He's making his bid as well. And Fenwick Jack down the center of the track. Anyone's race at this point on the outside. Clancy O'Toole, Lucky Running Cat running on gamely. Fenwick Jack trying to get a piece. Clancy O'Toole's put them away for now. Now he has to brace for the challenge of Fenwick Jack. Fast Payday getting in gear. It is Clancy O'Toole who looks to be home free in the opener. Clancy O'Toole, Lucky Running Cat, Fenwick Jack. Final time of 1:58.1.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm gonna start doing lives, and that way you can see exactly how I'm doing it instead of just posting a video. Sometimes the mic just doesn't work, you know. But I very much appreciate. I think we learned a lot in the chat, right? Everybody's opinions, their thoughts, facts, figures, right? I thought it was very interesting, and although there wasn't a big bang, you know, the one horse, Karen's. What was the name of the horse? Let me see. Clancy O'Toole. O'Toole. Clancy O'Toole. Yeah. That's the one that won. But you know, I'm going to be doing lives on how to make money on the horses. It's fun. It's easy to pick them out. You know, when you have a lot of horses like that, it's a dangerous race to bet. Anything can happen. They can clip heels, you know, anything. Anyways, so if you want to do that, I don't know if I'm going to do it this afternoon because this ran a little bit long. I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for hitting that like button, subscribe. I always forget what I'm supposed to be saying. Not yours, huh, French wrench? Yeah, it's a good way to make money with little investment. Okay. So hope to see you all with a live on the horse races and help out people in need that really just need to go. Oh, she's still talking. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Anyways, thank you all. I hope you have a great afternoon. And we'll see you on the next live, which should be a little bit interesting as well. Okay. Bye, y'all.